What's up guys, Philip at Trade Genius. Okay, so in this video we're going to take a look at the weekly outlook on Bitcoin. We're going to look at the different price levels to keep an eye on. We also are going to take a look at the crypto fear and greed indicator to see where that's at, because that can create some nice entries as well. And we're also going to look at our model, which has been pretty much dictating the course of price since the top. So we will take a look at all that stuff in today's video. Let's dive right into it.
Trade Genius.
Okay guys, so basically what we have is the weekly chart up. So let's actually just zoom in on the price action here. And on the weekly, so last week's candle was interesting because we had this big tether move, right? Tether, essentially, if you guys didn't recall or missed it, Tether, there was rumors about its being insolvent or its ties to Bitfinex and banking issues. So this keeps rearing its ugly head, right? And again, they've never been audited on Tether, so no one truly knows if there's $1 for every Tether that's been issued. They say that it is, but again, until a third party comes in, we just don't know. So these rumors will continue to happen. What happens when Tether sells off is, the first thing people will do is get into Bitcoin, so it drives the Bitcoin price up. So we had a big disconnect on the Bitcoin exchanges that only deal in Tether versus the ones that deal in fiat, like Coinbase and Kraken and Gemini and those. It did end up pulling those exchanges up, but because the price of Tether had dropped by about 15% or so in value, so instead of being worth $1, it was down to like 85 cents. That drove up the price on the Tether exchanges to well over $1,000 at the high point. So we had this big move up with Tether, and ran right into Coinbase, being that it's a dollar denominated exchange, ran right into its previous resistance level there at about 6,800, and then boom, sold way back in. So that was just kind of an event move and didn't really sustain anything other than ran up where there was liquidity up into about 6,800, and that's where it just couldn't eat through that, and then the sellers came back in and there was a lack of buying at that point. So event moves can be pretty volatile, but a lot of times they will revert to the mean, and that's kind of what we saw there on the weekly chart. So again, I think on the weekly chart, we've basically been chopping in this range. So this whole range here, where we've got kind of this low end of the spectrum at about 6,000 up to the 6,800 level, that's an $800 range. And essentially, guys, all it's going to be about is playing both ends of those ranges with a fairly tight stop. Anything in between would just be very short-term type trade stuff, and you're just going to be kind of just chopping around. So you kind of want to look for where there's obvious support, obvious resistance until the market breaks those, and then we start looking at downside targets. So right now we're just kind of in that sideways range on the weekly chart. So nothing's really changed there on the weekly. Now let's dive into the daily. All right guys, so daily chart, again, this trend line here, which is part of the larger price formation, was really pegging the price action here. So price wasn't busting through it. We had a breakout above that, and that really was looking pretty promising. But when you have a breakout and then you basically retreat back in on the same daily bar, that's a swing failure. Okay, that's not what you want to see. Now again, that was an event move, so not much there, but that did poke its head back above. But notice we've settled back in now to that trend line, and we're starting to drift out of it actually, which is what'll happen on a consolidating market. So really, again, comes down to, what I'd be looking for here is if we got another slingshot sell fire, I would definitely probably look hard at taking a short there, because your stop's going to be pretty tight, so the risk reward there will be good. Again, if you guys are looking at wanting to get those indicators, head over to tradelikeagenius.com, and if you get special number 1, I'll throw that in. You'll also get access to our members only webinar this Thursday. We're going to do a deep dive into the market, so I encourage you guys to check that out. Back to Bitcoin, so that's what I'm looking at here. Again, as far as the going forward price action, doesn't really start getting that interesting at this point, I think, until we get above 6,800 and we get a daily close above 6,800. And because the other thing too you have to keep in mind is this larger descending wedge that we're in now is starting to come down into that 6,800 level. Okay, so this will be a very important area to break. Below that, this trend line here, which has been holding up these series of higher lows, again, that's where your counterintuitive move, but you're going to want to buy those instead of fearing that that's going to break through, because this consolidation could continue on for a bit longer, as we'll look at the model. In fact, why don't we go ahead and look at the model right now. All right, guys, so here's the model. Again, if you're not familiar with our pricing model that we've been kind of tracking, because it's been very accurate as far as the ebb and flows from the high. If we were to kind of go over here like this and get these points to line up, you'll see that what we've done is pretty much follow, right, price action more or less down into this area. I don't have it scaled quite exactly the same, but you get the picture. All right, so that's why we like to focus in on it. And now what we have is we are at this point in time where we're looking at a move up into November. And again, this is basically indicating chop into that area. So basically what we're going to do is, according to this, chop with maybe an upward bias, and then as we start heading into November down here, we'll start seeing a decent move up. So just keep that in mind, guys. That's what this has been pointing out. I will say the caveat here is that we did not get a series of higher highs, right? Like this, we were expecting to see maybe a test again up into this 200-day moving average. We didn't quite get there in this time frame. So now it's kind of fallen into this consolidation. And there's been a few periods of times where the model said lower, lower, higher, high, and it didn't quite happen. And then it synced back up where, we basically would be this chop. And then so we're looking for this move up is kind of the next thing. Now, whether or not we make a higher high, that'll be interesting to see, but we should see an up move again to challenge the most recent highs that we've seen back in September. So let's take a look at the crypto fear and greed chart. Okay, so we are at an index of 21 on the crypto fear and greed index. Again, I would start to take a look at, and if we do dip into a buy signal on this, I will update this later in the week. Basically looking for this to drop below 17, and then we'll look for a hook, and that usually proves to be a pretty decent entry point for a bounce. So there's that. So we'll keep an eye on that. All right, guys, so that's pretty much it on this video. That's the weekly outlook. Again, we're pretty range bound. I know it's getting a little boring out there, but as far as Bitcoin price action goes, but again, with the indicators that we have, you can drill down to smaller time frames. I'm not going to do that in these videos, but we have the tools that you can use to swing trade that smaller stuff. But this is more of a larger swing type position viewpoint. But so there's money to be made, even though we're kind of chopping. You just have to drill down on those smaller time frames and really look at it as a range type trade. Otherwise, the big ranges like we talked about are going to be in the low 6,000s to about 6,800 right now, and that's where you would short 6,800 or sell your long position, or then buy the dip back down in the low 6,000s until the market says otherwise, breaks those levels. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Please hit like and subscribe, and I will see you on tomorrow's video. Take care. Bye.
Trade Genius.